Welcome to the third iteration of the Sega Saturn Shiro / Saturn Junkyard Titancast collaboration, the only podcast to combine the greatest minds of the Saturn all into one. Tonight's Shiros are Patrick, Ben, Dave, Nick, Peter, and Chaz. Tonight's Titans are Simon, Brian, and Sam, the SSG.
I exist. I'm telling you right now, I exist. I'm here. I'm talking to you.
Tonight we have a great discussion with you. We're going to cover a few different topics today, ranging from favorite Saturn game, your favorite Saturn development, and what are we looking forward to in 2021. Hopefully, human interaction. But anyways, let's start off with our favorite Saturn game played in 2020, and we will start with Dave. Would you like to go first, Dave?
Sure. I've played a lot of games in 2020, done a lot of streams, and a lot of good games, but if I had to choose one, normally I would say Knights is my favorite game, but my favorite game for like experiencing improvement on the game and like getting better at it and having fun with it would have to be Initial D with the Eurobeat mod. I used to really suck at that game, like really suck, and it's not an easy game by any means, but it is, I think, a decent game, and I had a lot of fun with it. Once I came to grips with the controls, it's about as hard to drift in that game as it is in real life. Like with the counter steer and, you know, under and oversteer and everything, it's really not easy, but once you get it, you feel like a god. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with that game, and it was fun to stream too, and I think Pat was on there at least once, so yeah, that was lots of fun.
Yeah, but I think I figured out what the issue was with the game, though. The issue was that there's no Eurobeat. That's the biggest.
Well, yeah, with the mod
caveat,
though, and this wasn't a new mod. It was like an old mod that I dug up from somebody on the Junkyard had it. I just like reached out and somebody had it and they sent it to me. So I burned up my own copy, and it was a lot of fun. If anybody like spends time with that game and gets good at it, I promise you'll feel like a street racer, you know. But until then, you'll feel like an idiot because you'll be banging into a lot of sidewalls and stuff like that.
Does that game have a strange Japanese title by any chance? Because I'm having a hard time finding a copy.
I don't think so. I think it was just Initial D. Okay. If you just look up Initial D on the Saturn. Hold on a second. I don't even know.
Or just look up the Japanese title of it, which I don't know what it is in whatever kanji, so you have to put it through Google Translate.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, but what about you, Peter? What have you been up to, either personally, and what is your favorite Saturn game of 2020?
For 2020, the only two games that I've played beginning to end on the Saturn were Shining Force 3, and I've done that many times, but the bigger highlight for me was actually playing through the entire Deep Fear game. So I've not done it before, and it was actually kind of fun. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because we've discussed it recently, but it was just a lot of fun for me, and it was neat to get into a game that I know was just about released in North America. And the other thing too, like, you know, as we get older, I find that I can only game in smaller chunks, and I found Deep Fear to be really perfect for that. You know, you could save fairly frequently. You didn't have to, remember oodles and swathes of things if you had to take, for example, a week off between sessions. And so it was really easy to just pick up the controller, play, make a lot of good headway, and have a good time doing it. And so I was able to finish the game, you know, within a couple of weeks, and just had a really good time. So for me, the game I played the most in 2020 for the Saturn was actually Deep Fear, and I just really loved it.
Just follow up on what Peter said, and in wholesale agreement that Deep Fear is a fantastic game. I first played it a couple of years ago ahead of, I think we were recording a Halloween cast, and I wasn't prepared for that to be one of my favorite Saturn games, but it probably is. I might put it in my top 10 maybe. I just really like how it is maybe more of a gamey type of survival horror game that eschews a lot of like the more abstract puzzles that a Resident Evil might have in favor of a more streamlined action experience. And I think it does a really good job with environmental storytelling that I feel few games at the time really nailed in the same way. So I love the idea of just kind of exploring this underwater base, and then everything just kind of goes to shit over the course of your playthrough. And I think it just did a really good job setting the table for for a lot of that suspense.
You
Even
say it's
though
saying
it's
the big table.
the big table, that's true. And even though it's I don't know, as you all mentioned on the last cast, which was a great episode, by the way, everybody should listen to it.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Brian.
the voice acting was pretty horrific in its own way, but nevertheless, I still thought the dialogue was pretty solid. So, and the storytelling was pretty decent. So, yeah, I enjoyed that. As far as this year, I'd say maybe Daytona USA. I've been playing through all of the home console versions lately, and it's just one of those timeless racing games that checks all the boxes for what I look for in that genre, especially one that asks players to spend as much time as they would revisiting the courses and really investing in that space. And I think it does a good job respecting its course design through, you know, a variety of tactics like I don't know what like landmarks, for example. Like, who can forget the Jeffrey statue or the Sonic mural, right? Like that shit. Like you know, you see those and you know exactly where you are on the course. You can place yourself mentally of what you're thinking about doing in those turns. And yeah, I feel like the best racing games really take their environment seriously, and it kind of encourages that endless exploration and experimentation to get better at refining our approaches to how we revisit those spaces and improve our lap times over the years. So that's what I got.
And unlike Initial D, it's not impossible to initiate a power slide in Daytona.
Yeah.
Holding it is another thing, you know, but
True.
it's pretty arcadey.
Yeah, it's almost more difficult not to. I mean, you're realistically, to avoid losing speed, you don't want to power slide too much in that game. But
Exactly.
but yeah, it's more about finding.
But it's fun as hell.
Oh yeah,
When
it's
you
still
get
fun
in
as
one of
hell.
those corners and you can just like power slide right through it.
Definitely, yeah, it's super satisfying if you can do that. And also, I mean, in a worst case scenario, you oversteer and hit the cones on some of those turns, and it's like, yeah, that's cool too. I love hitting cones. Hell yeah.
Did you
I'll hit all
experiment with the
cones.
wheel?
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Saturn wheel. I do play it that way, and also the Dreamcast version. I have a Mad Catz. What is it, the M2 or something? That one works pretty well. Although it's very squeaky, so I can't use it very often because it drives my girlfriend mad. Which, fair enough. I don't know. I think I just need to grease that thing or something.
Get the lube out.
Yeah. No, honestly, I think my favorite version, other than the HD, arcade port that came out on 360 and PS4, which I can still play on my Xbox Series X, which is fantastic, even though I bought it like 11 years ago, is the original vanilla Saturn one. I just think it feels really good despite all of its technical incompetence. It's just really enjoyable to play and adapted perfectly for the digital controller as it was.
For sure.
Agreed.
Yeah. What about you, Nick? What have you been up to? And what is your favorite Saturn game you played in 2020?
Sure. Yeah, I've been up to editing the Mansion of Hidden Souls review and also working on writing up and doing research for Virtua Racing and Parodius. That'll be the first canceled game review that I do here in about a month or so. Parodius has an interesting story to it, so that'll be hype. Favorite game that I played in 2020, that was on the Saturn. Power Slave is a super close second. It really is a Metroidvania Doom clone. That is a perfect description for it, and everybody should play it if you enjoy either of those types of games. But strangely enough, I up until 2020 had yet to play Panzer Dragoon Saga, and I don't know why it took me this long to play it, but I finally did that this year. So no, I didn't spend $900 on a copy. I just went ahead and played it through other means.
You spent $800 on a copy, not $900.
Exactly. Yes,
Did you do the
$859,
widescreen?
no more. What?
Did you play the widescreen mod?
No.
Or just standard?
Standard, vanilla. I used it to kind of break in the PVM that I'd recently hooked up at the time, so I played it on the good old CRT Glow, so it was nice. It was a great time.
A lot of the PVMs have a widescreen mode, so if yours has it, you could probably play it.
It does. It does. It's not it's a 4x3 monitor, but I would be able to letterbox it if I wanted to. But yeah, just a super. I mean, obviously, it's an incredible Saturn game. It's hailed as one of the best for a reason. And when you think about, what other people were playing, Final Fantasy VII and other similar RPGs of the 90s, like Saga really does blow those types of games way out of the water, despite it being relatively short. 15-hour game, but all 15-hour games are just fantastic. It is just a beautiful, beautiful game.
If it's that short, I might play it. If it's only 15 hours,
You
Yeah,
haven't played it?
about that.
I haven't.
You
beat
got to
it.
play it.
Yeah, I mean, if you go for a completionist run, you're gonna spend a lot more time.
Yeah,
than that, but
you could sink more than 20 if you're going to like really, really get your teeth into it. But if you're casually playing it and doing the occasional, I don't want to call them side quests. It's not really many side quests in the game, but a casual playthrough could be about 15 hours, 20 tops. So
That works.
yeah,
Chaz is still floating up there with the gods. You should follow his guide if you want to do like a complete. But I was going to ask
should.
Nick, what's your favorite part? What was your favorite area?
It's a tough question. So there was a I really liked, I'll name a few things. The first was there was a recurring boss fight from a previous Panzer Dragoon game. I won't spoil it, but that was fantastic. And there were a couple other areas that were really neat. The first area in particular where you're flying through the little canyon, once you leave the cave and first get your dragon, I thought that was a really good scene setter. And I, for some reason, really enjoyed the tunnels where you have like the little like floaty cart
underground?
thing. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And I don't know, I feel like that's probably the least liked area in the game, but I really enjoyed it for some reason. I don't know why. And but I think by far my most favorite part was the tower at the end, going up and down that it was a massive dungeon, a really big game of 3D chess trying to get through that thing, and it was really well done. I mean, I don't think there was a part of the game I disliked. I think I liked everything, all the areas and stuff, but especially I think the tower at the end, though, that'd probably be my top favorite area, just because it was so massive. It was and really, like, it looked beautiful on the Saturn. Like, one thing they said Futatsugi did well was while the Saturn couldn't do a ton with 3D, he used what it could to produce really artistically pleasing environments, and that's a perfect example of the stuff he was able to crank out on the machine. So and yeah, just super good. If they ever remake the damn thing, I'd love to see what the tower looks like. So
What was your main dragon transformation like that you normally would use?
I used, so I'm trying to remember, it was like, so if you were to go on like the little circle thing where you move the dot, it was like the far lower left corner. I think it was attack and agility. I don't know if they called it agility, it might have been something else, but it was definitely like lower left all the
offensive.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like totally cranked to the far southwest corner of the transformation thing. So the thing with the shepherd's tone in the background.
So yeah, we had a very unusual, very hot, long summer in the UK this year. From March till July, it was just wall-to-wall sunshine. And I got really into gardening, and I left video gaming for a long time. I also got the Disney Plus streaming channel, so I watched all of the Star Wars content and all the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And for the longest time, the only game I did play was Saturn Bomberman. But then, come September, when the weather had changed, I had about 3 months of solid Saturn playing. And the biggest hit for me this year was completing Burning Rangers, which my compatriots completed a long time ago for a Titancast that was about that game. And I was the only one who sadly was unable to complete the game. And I was really frustrated by it and really disappointed that I was the only one who didn't have the skills to complete the game. So this year I finished it. I thought it was an absolutely magnificent game. I hadn't appreciated how good it was, both in terms of gameplay and particularly in the visuals. I don't think I'd ever really appreciated the graphics until this time round. And it is a thing of beauty. And completing it really felt like an achievement. So yeah, I guess that would be my biggest Saturn game. But I've played a lot. I played quite a lot of Duke Nukem this year as well, which is something I'm enjoying quite a lot, despite its terrible 90s sort of misogynist, sexist content. I'm really enjoying that. So yeah, but definitely Burning Rangers and Saturn Bomberman would have to be the most played after that.
For sure, both of those games are really good, and I definitely agree that I think that the joke of Duke Nukem is just that in general, is how stupid it is.
It's very suspect, but it's quite funny if you can take it as it is.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, both those games are pretty good. I actually never played Duke Nukem on the Saturn. I only played it on the PC back in the day, but I definitely might want to give that a try. I'm just always hesitant of Saturn first-person shooters because of the whole shoulder button strafing mechanics. Back then they're pretty decent, but now it's like it just feels weird if you're used to the twin stick first-person shooter mechanics nowadays.
I'm not too familiar with first-person shooters, to be honest, so I haven't played that many, and I just enjoy it for what it is. And it's one of the most pixelated and strange-looking games as well, but I do love it. I do love it. So yeah, they will be my picks.
Sounds good. All right, Chaz, did you want to let us know what you've been up to in 2020 and what your favorite Saturn game of 2020 is?
Okay, so as far as 2020 is, well, as you might imagine, we've all had a really tough year. I think all of us have. I know I have. I recently lost my job to the pandemic, so I've had to work on myself a lot. So that's been particularly tough. But on a more positive note, we don't have to talk about negative stuff. I don't know why my camera's not popping up, but hey, at least you can hear me. So in the meantime, 2020, my Saturn has actually been pretty quiet this year. I've been focusing on my own streaming page on Facebook a lot. So I've been playing a lot of games over there, but mostly a lot of Super Nintendo stuff. I bounce back between arcade games, a few PlayStation 1 games. So I've been promoting that platform a lot. But as far as Saturn goes, I recently fired it back up. I fired up PDS again. Funny that we were just talking about that a moment ago. And because I just wanted to play it again just for fun because I hadn't played it in a long time. And so I ran it from start to finish. Went for 100 again from all those years ago, and I've still got it.
Yeah, no, I always love watching your streams, especially like the Resident Evil ones. Like, you're just like making me jelly because I'm like complete garbage at those games. I recently played through RE2, and you probably saw my times, right? It was decent. I could not get an A ranking though, no matter how hard I tried. I was so sad.
Yeah, really, you just have to keep running those games over and over, which may seem, redundant, but the more you do it, the more familiar you become with it, and everything will become, second nature to you. You know what to pick up, what not to pick up, what enemies to take down, which ones you can run around. It becomes very much hard execution, which for some may be a little too repetitive, a little bit irritating, but once you know what you're doing, when to do it, and then how to do it, it gets a lot easier, especially with, particularly with the Resident Evil games, because, that's probably the one major conceivable flaw that I could give Resident Evil is how precise everything is as far as what you do and when you do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, it's all a game of, okay, so should I heal? Should I duke the zombie? Should I kill the zombie? And then like what weapons to use and what to save up. Yeah, and I guess it's all that balance in the game. And me just being a wuss, I save a lot, so that's one of the biggest things, because I'm always afraid I'm going to choke and then die on a boss by mistake. Like, I remember one time I did a run, and that I was fighting I was on the alligator in Resident Evil 2, and I completely forgot that he can one-hit KO you, and I got a little bit too close, and I lost, and I didn't save at all, and I lost, like, my progress from the beginning to that point, and I was so angry.
Yeah, just remember to, get that, press that button so the oxygen tank falls out of the wall there.
Yeah, no, that was a few years ago, like maybe 10 or 12, 15 years ago when I didn't know that.
Right.
And I just tried to tank him with like regular ammo. So that was a lesson learned. Now it's an easy boss. Hit the button, wait, hit him, and it's simple.
Yeah, did you know the alligator almost didn't make it into the remake?
No, I think I heard something about that. Yeah, but I'm glad they at least added the little cutscene.
Yeah, they almost didn't put him in because they thought it was too unrealistic, but he's so popular with fans, including myself, that they pretty much had to keep him. They couldn't cut him.
For sure. No, I definitely have some issues with the remake, though, sadly, and that one and 3. But I still think they're decent, pretty good games, but like all in all, I still prefer the originals.
Remake of 2, but 3 remake, I pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah, that was pretty awful, I'm not going to lie.
There's a really big difference between completing that game and like mastering it, though.
For sure.
Same with Knights. You know, you can complete it, but you could spend your whole life mastering it.
Yeah, I love Resident Evil speedrunners. They're so much fun to watch.
And I had a fun time listening to you talk about that on the latest cast. I was driving home and listening to you guys talk about Resident Evil and the speedrunners and stuff. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Right, tricks like what works, what doesn't work, you know, how to bait enemies, how to run around them, things like that.
Yeah, it's a really involved and a really busy scene. There's a lot of people doing that.
Well, people love those games. They love sharing the information and playing them over and over again.
And the mods are insane as well. Like some of those, like the tough mods, like Origin of Species and stuff like that is just amazing, and it's a lot of fun.
The question on everybody's mind is XL2 going to make a Resident Evil 2 on the Saturn? No, that would be great, right?
Do it.
Do, like cut up Resident Evil 1 and just like mess with it, you know, make a new like a demake.
Man, just give me that engine and I'll make a Resident Evil style game. I'll make it the Shiro Towers.
Yeah, I do wonder what could have been if 2 had actually made it onto Saturn as planned, but unfortunately it never happened.
Don't get Samwise of the South started on that.
I'm going to see that's a good segue.
Just real quick, I feel like it would be awesome if they demade the RE remake for the Saturn. So you had Mr. X and you had all of those systems, however rudimentary they'd have to be. I think that would be pretty sweet.
Didn't the Sega Genesis Mega Drive get a Resident Evil 1 port recently?
It's not complete yet. They're still working on it, but yes.
Oh, they're still working on it. Okay, but yeah, how cool is that? I don't know how they're going to make it work, but yeah.
Game Boy Color did it.
It's completely isometric now. That's what they've done. They've made the game isometric, and if you just go watch some of the video, the dude that's making it's out of Russia. You can download a prototype of it, play it in. It's actually functional on real hardware at this point now. So I mean, you can go and play it. I mean, it's pretty awesome. It actually kind of, I don't know if he walked away from the Resident Evil Gaiden, that whole, I think that was what it was, Resident Evil Gaiden, where they were on the ship, the Game Boy. Yeah. It's got some of those play mechanics. I think it did at one point. I think he's walked away from that and kind of turned it more into a quote unquote original style kind of point and shoot kind of game. But you just go take a look at it, dude. It's pretty badass.
Nice. All right. Well, speaking of Sam, do you want to let us know what's been going on in the world of the SSG and what your favorite Saturn game of 2020 that you played?
The world of SSG has been the SSG slamming his head into a keyboard lately. That's what it's been.
It's been fighting editing software.
It's been fighting editing software. It's been fighting time. It's been fighting myself. I was dead set on having a video out tomorrow as of the day of this recording, and that is looking at this point like it's nigh impossible. At least not the video I wanted to get done. But that kind of does that topic itself segues into what I was going to talk about as my favorite games of this year. I can't say game; it's a games because last year I started really going deep into the lore and backstory of other Panzer Dragoon games. I know a lot of people don't take much stock into it outside of Saga, but there is a real world that is built around the narrative of those games, especially if you start really digging in deep. And there was a lot of material for it that was put out in Japan, not very much over here in the West. But basically what I'm getting to is this: at the beginning of this year, whenever I got my layoff right before COVID happened, and then COVID made sure my layoff stayed permanent for a while, I went and played all three of the Saturn games again. I went and played Orta again. And I mean, I didn't just go play them for the sake of playing them. I wanted to find every little thing I possibly could. I went down every single path that was available in Zwei. My playthrough of Panzer Dragoon Saga is 28 hours. I can't remember how many gigabytes it is. I think it's like 64 or 68 gigabytes worth of gameplay capture for those 4 games. So that's a lot of crap.
You just, after a while, did you just imagine yourself riding the dragon like in your dreams when you close your eyes?
What I imagined myself was dealing with the 10,000 years prior to the games. That's the deal. What I'm getting at. A lot of people don't understand the history of the world that those games exist in, and that part of the reason why my video tomorrow isn't coming out was after the hell of a year of 2020 we had. I was in the middle of editing this thing last night, and it's still about halfway done. And I'm literally listening to myself, and it is like one of the most dark and depressing videos I have ever made in my life. And I was like, dude, I don't need this right now. My subscribers don't need this right now. I am not about to put this out at this moment. We got to give 2021 a chance.
You know what?
But,
Sometimes you got to start off dark to go back into the light.
Nah, man, this is too fun. No, sir. No, sir. Hold up. Give me one. I will tell you what. The last line from that script is literally, "This is the true despair of Panzer Dragoon, that our fates are bound to our forebears, and that the many sins they may have committed, it is an inescapable reality for all of our characters, and in turn, all who inhabit their world." That is not how you end a video in 2021 right now.
Hey, man. Sometimes we got to go to dark places.
It's not the message we want, but it's the one we need.
The one we deserve right now.
But yeah. I don't have the time to finish it. That's real God's honest truth.
Yeah,
I that's my own channel. It doesn't matter. Something's going to be out. But yeah, 2021, I am looking forward to immensely. At this point, anything can be uphill. What I wanted to end on my little segment right here is that there's a lot going on right now in the Saturn scene, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it here in a minute. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about this year.
Oof, boy, for sure, yeah. And I'm excited for your video to come out for sure. I think all of us here are, and I can lament your video editing woes, as I have a video I'm working on that I think a few of us know what I'm working on, but due to this year and just getting busy with my other podcast I've been working on, it's been getting pushed back, but I'm almost done. I just got to film the thing and finish my voiceovers, and it should be good to go. Hopefully.
Yeah, we love seeing everything that everybody is coming out with. It's been pretty fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, Ben, what have you been up to?
Okay, so I've actually been up to a lot, and a lot of things are building up to 2021. There was a lot of things that podcast related with this Shiro group, or independent related with other stuff that I'm working on as personal projects online, which I can't wait to release. They're going to be a lot of fun to do. But as far as like Saturn games, one of the ones that I got into, if anybody knows me, they know I like shoot 'em ups, and so the shoot 'em ups that I've been playing. Like, I've been trying to get really good at Radiant Silvergun and improving my score and all of that stuff going online there. And, oh god, I gotta mention now, I wish you guys could see this, because in the video chat that we're doing, everybody is completely being goofballs. It's hilarious.
We're trying to insert
it's hard for
connectors.
I'm like trying not to crack up, but this is great. This is so much fun.
Yeah,
okay.
But
great
you know,
group of guys,
that's pretty
I have
cool.
To say. But anyway, so I'm improving my score in Radiant Silvergun, and another game that I got into was Guardian Force. So anyway, the game is a little bit of a different format of your typical shoot 'em up. It's not vertical or horizontal. It's one where you basically have a tank, and you have tank controls that you can rotate the tank head and shoot from any direction. It's kind of like a strafing shoot 'em up in a way, and it gives it a lot more challenge and depth in that regard. So you're trying to figure out where on the screen do you best need to position yourself for each section, and once you get there, then you got to make sure you're using the right equipment and all of that good stuff. So if you've played a lot of shoot 'em ups and you're just tired of the standard format and you don't want to go over to something like Steam Hearts or Sexy Parodius, or maybe you've tried Cotton Boomerang, Cotton 2, and that's just you just want something different along those lines, Guardian Force is pretty fantastic. I've been having a lot of fun with it.
I never played Guardian Forces, but I've been trying to get better at Radiant myself. Are you playing it on your arcade, or are you playing it on the Saturn?
I am actually playing Radiant Silvergun on my arcade machine. So I've got the full-on Japanese version arcade machine sitting out in the garage, and that's what I play it on.
Nice. Did you end up replacing the buttons on that, or is it still the stock stuff?
Okay, so the buttons... actually, I did replace the buttons. The buttons are HAP buttons, and I replaced the sticks with something a little bit more response to it. So I like the way it came out, and it's so much fun to play.
Can't wait to try it out.
Absolutely.
Sounds
when
good.
you're finished with that STV and it's got the marquee and everything, you need to do a video on it so we can all see.
Done. Yeah, absolutely.
I still get my video up for that kiosk.
Yes, you do.
It's all the footage and stuff's ready. I just need to do the voiceover.
Been rubbing my hands. Like, when is he going to do it?
Never.
When is he going to put it up?
It'll never go up. But yeah, that footage is like 6 months old, but I'll figure it out. I have to catch some more. But in terms of what I've been up to, pretty much just Project City USA. So both this podcast and the Spirit Hunters podcast, and some streaming with that. A lot of I got my candy cab up, like I've been talking about on the podcast, and the Saturn kiosk. That's all good to go. In terms of my favorite Saturn game I played in 2020, that would have to be the Lunar Silver Star Complete MPEG patch. So that came out a couple months ago, and I was pretty sad because I had to pick up a MPEG card for that, and I didn't have one. So luckily, a fan was nice enough to sell me one at a pretty decent price. So I got that, and I've been playing that a little bit, and the video blows me away. It uses the audio and video from the Lunar Silver Star Harmony on the PSP, so it's kind of funny. It's like that PSP audio into the Saturn, so it's like a weird backwards port thing set up. It's really weird and crazy, but that's probably my favorite thing I've been playing. I did a little stream of it on the YouTube Sega Saturn Shiro page if you guys want to watch that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and if you guys have an MPEG card, go download that patch and play it, because it's solid stuff. But yeah, that's about it for me.
Yeah, I recommend folks get on that MPEG card now, because they're already expensive, but they're not getting any cheaper.
Yeah, for sure. I paid quite a bit for mine, and I wouldn't be surprised if once this patch explodes, when it does, and it's already, that MPEG cards will be a premium. But let's hope that Professor Abrasive maybe builds it into the Satiator or something, but only time will tell.
Like a little chip decoder?
That would be nice.
On a chip?
Exactly, that'd be great. But, alright,
Seems like that could be possible. It could be.
Yeah, no, anything's possible with FPGA technology.
Let's get a like, tiny little cheap FPGA to just put all that on a chip.
Yeah, build into like the Satiator, that'd be kind of cool. Why don't we talk about our favorite Saturn-related development of 2020? And I guess I will start with Brian. What is your favorite Saturn-related development of 2020?
It's a little difficult because I haven't had the opportunity to try a lot of the fan translations that have come out, which I expect a lot of you will bring up. So I'll leave that to you all. Actually, one of my favorite things that I've seen out of the Saturn community this year is actually a peripheral from Brook Accessory. It's a Taiwanese manufacturer that does they do mainly controller adapters and arcade stick adapters for a variety of consoles. And this year they came out with the Wingman SD, which I got an early version of that, and it wasn't perfect at the time, but they've been adding updates, and as they've gone, it's become very reliable. And for those who are not familiar with it, it's just an adapter that lets you use most modern controllers and arcade sticks on both the Dreamcast and the Sega Saturn, and it has output controller ports for each, which is kind of cool. And you can use those controllers wirelessly. Also, the Dreamcast for the Dreamcast, it functions as a full-fledged VMU as well, as 200 blocks of memory built in, which is really cool. But for the Saturn, I've found that it's a good solution potentially for just the increasing scarcity of native 3D pads or control pads, because it's getting, I don't know about you guys, but for me it's getting harder and harder to find ones with analog sticks that aren't like wobbly or that are in generally good condition, and they're getting a little more expensive to boot, and it's not like Sega's making any more of them. And so I think something like the Wingman is a great solution for that, or at least practically I've found it to be really valuable in being able to use my PS4 or PS3 controllers or Xbox or Switch. And so that's, honestly, it's been kind of a game changer, more or less, because
Does it feel the same?
Yeah, it feels better. I mean, in a lot of ways, it feels as precise. Like a 360 pad it's going to retain the even more precision. It feels because I just don't think the plastic nub of the Saturn 3D controller is that conducive, relatively speaking, to fine-tune movement, especially in like games like Power Slave and whatnot. So I feel like it's even better in some ways, and you can remap all the controls or all the buttons, and I've just have been very surprised at how well that's worked and how long I've continued to use it for 3D games. And also, I don't have any modern arcade sticks to have tried it with, but I think that's going to be a core part of the appeal for many people who
that was my big appeal for it. Is I love using arcade sticks on certain games, and to be honest, the Saturn Dreamcast doesn't have the best arcade sticks. I mean, the best ones they have are the virtual sticks and that the official arcade stick for the Dreamcast, the Age Tech one. But those still have a lot of issues, especially in the button department. But this one, you can get a USB, just any USB controller, like hey, for example, that Astro City stick that they released that I have in this corner over here. That you can actually you can't use it on. Never mind, I forgot it's not compatible. But you can mod it, and you can get in there using a Brook PCB or a retro controller and connect it into there.
That's awesome. That's intriguing, because every time I do like a night stream, I always make the excuse that my analog pad is getting worse and worse, and I've already like dissected the controller and flipped it upside down, and that helped a little bit. But it's just the spring is loose, and it's just sometimes it'll even catch, and I feel like I'm breaking it because I don't go. I'm kind of heavy-handed when it comes to nights. So yeah, I'd be interested in trying something like that and see if it's as good as you say.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't really notice a lot of downsides either. I didn't think that it added any noticeable input lag. Although, to the degree that you're much more familiar with nights, I think you might be able to discern that if it does exist.
It would come down. Yeah, I'd have to just play it and try it to see, because it's one of those things where it either feels right or it feels wrong. And like, I have the PS2 version of the remake of Nights. Yeah. And you can even play like with the old engine. And I'm not sure if it's really the old engine or if it's just like if it's like the old graphics resources and stuff. But even playing with the PS2 analog controller, it just doesn't feel as precise as the Saturn's 3D pad.
Yeah. Interesting.
So but I would have to check. I would have to see. I'm sure Peter would too.
And to draw a distinction here, I mean, I think it does carry over full 3D, like with pressure sensitivity and all of the degrees of motion that the original controller had, as far as I can tell. And that's in stark contrast to what was the Brawler? What was the
that was Retro Fighters.
Yeah, Retro Fighters. So in contrast to that, which basically just simulated the D-pad and reassigned it to the analog stick, it was still digital inputs just through their analog stick, which has its own value maybe for like the original Panzer Dragoon, which didn't have analog compatibility but feels more smoothly, or feels like a more smooth interface for aiming maybe. But for the most part, I didn't care for that Retro Fighters controller as much. But I think Brook just allowing me to use my PS4 controllers to play Nights has been fantastic, and it's a lot more comfortable to play, I think, as well, with those modern controllers that are more ergonomically designed than Sega's initial foray into analog 3D pads.
It's worth mentioning that Peter has written many great articles this past year that are totally worth reading when you're sitting on the pot. And
interesting.
Really good reading. Or whatever, but yeah, no, you should check out at SegaSaturnShiro.com. Peter's written a lot of great articles and continues to do so. And yeah.
Dave, what if I want to read them in the shower? Is that okay?
Well, you'd get wet.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
Well, he wrote one on the FDD.
I did, yeah, and that was definitely probably my most researched article of the year. Spent a lot of time doing testing. I ended up testing every single North American game to see if it would be compatible with the Saturn's floppy disk drive. So that took hours. And yeah, that was it was actually a lot of fun because it's nerding out for me, so it was enjoyable while I was doing it. But yeah, my favorite development actually just happened quite late. It was the translation of the floppy disk drive by Trekkies Unite. So the floppy disk drive, in order for it to be accessed through the Saturn's dashboard memory manager, you need to have a special operator disk, and one of these disks shipped with every floppy disk drive that was sold back in the day. But the trouble is it's in Japanese, and even setting your dashboard languages to English or any other language you want doesn't change the language on the operator disk. So Trekkies went ahead and translated that, and so it's just the tiniest of files. You burn it onto a disk, you pop it into your Saturn, and you can, on real hardware in English, manipulate files on your floppy disk drive right from your memory manager. So that's super kind of nerdy, and I realize this isn't really going to appeal to a whole lot of people outside of potentially me. But still, I really enjoyed it, and that was my favorite development of 2020. And it just sort of highlighted, it was the cap for me on a year that was just filled with amazing fan translations. We got so many games translated this year. And for the last, bit of Saturn game that was translated, being the floppy disk drive operator, for me, that was just the super sweet cherry on the cake. So yeah, that was it for me.
For sure. I'm actually kind of humbled that your favorite thing is everything that Trekkies worked on is that operator disc. I think and it's so niche, and only really you and a couple people will enjoy it. But I don't know, it's humbling in a way.
Yeah, right.
It makes me happy that Peter's happy. That's what I'm excited about.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, gentlemen. So yeah, that was it was a lot of fun. 2020 definitely brought a lot of cool things, despite the fact that the pandemic was raging, and there was all kinds of problems in the world. It was neat to see all these positive developments in the Saturn community.
For sure. I used to joke that maybe it's the pandemic. Everyone's work from home. Like when they have a lull in their work, they'll just go and do some more stuff for the Saturn. Because I know a lot of people are working from home right now. So, but I mean, it's probably just the build up over time of all the interest in the projects, and just and like they were saying, once they get one down, a lot of them are a lot easier to work on as well. So it could be that as well. So, and a lot of just sort of breaking that shell in the wall that they've been running into for so many years.
I was about to say, what's been going on? I have been all over this country. That's what's been going on. No, I really haven't had a lot of time. It's like, for those of y'all on the podcast, of course, a lot of people will probably know here in the next couple of days. But there is, I could pull up a list right now. There is
Night
a crap ton of people.
Trekkies, Noah Steam,
Emerald Noah. I mean, you got all of these people who are pushing the Saturn. So, I mean, there isn't just one development, but I will say this, and there are two things I got to pull them up because I got to make sure I say correctly what I'm looking at. And I want to give credit to who they're supposed to actually go to. Whenever it comes to hacks and translations, there's a lot of people within the community, including our little group of people like Kay Kwona and a couple of other people who have talked about Fire Pro Wrestling in the past. Well, Fire Pro Wrestling now has an entire translation for it. It might not be the most popular game in the world, but a lot of people talk about it, and there it is. I believe that's Melenko.
That's worked on by Malenko, right?
Yeah, Melenko. He created that one. Complete, done. There you go. You've got the game in English, and even though that game isn't heavy on Japanese and everything, having it in English, some people, I've talked about this in the past. There's this idea of what import friendly is. Import friendly is the game being in English. That's import friendly. Like, at the end of the day, that's it. I mean, a lot of people talk about the Sega Saturn because of its fighters and its shooters and everything else, but there are hundreds of RPGs over there. There are hundreds of adventure games over there. The Sega Saturn is not just a 2D powerhouse. The Sega Saturn is a full-fledged 32-bit console.
It's a powerhouse. It's just a powerhouse, full stop.
It's just a powerhouse, plain and simple.
Creamy 3D graphics.
There you go, boy. I like that four-sided polygon crap. You know what I mean? Whenever it comes to the OG games, there's two of them in particular that I'm really looking forward to trying to put some time into. The first one is, actually, both of them are actually, I guess you would call it ports in a way. The first one is Final Fantasy, which is Trekkies Unite. I don't know how much actual gameplay is there, but you're looking at a NES game being brought to the Sega Saturn, like fully ported over. That's pretty awesome. All right, and then on top of that, you got Wolfenstein 3D, and that's being done by VBT. I don't know what that's just his username he goes by. But I mean, you got two individuals right there who are porting old school ass games to a new console. I know that might not be brand new because I mean there are new games being developed. Of course, you got there's a tank game that's out. That's literally the name of it. You have the Hell Slave, which is from XL2. There's Flicky Flock from Slinga. You got Final Burn Neo from VBT. You got Sickle by Elvisoft. But I believe it's Saniru is how he pronounces it. That's Emerald Noah's 3D game he's actually created. It's like a 3D. I haven't had a chance to play, but from the screenshots I've seen, it looks like a dungeon crawler in 3D from first person viewpoint. That's what it looks like. That's pretty badass, dude.
For sure. Yeah, people are finally starting to show the Saturn the kind of love that the Dreamcast has had for the last 2 decades, you know? And
Exactly.
It's about time, right?
A lot of the ports we get, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of ports that we get to the Sega Dreamcast are not that complicated games. I mean, there's a shit ton of Beats of Rage games. And on top of that, the Dreamcast is extremely easy to develop for. I mean, you got all this. I mean, I've actually made a partially working game on the Dreamcast. This Southern guy who works in the oil field. But what I'm getting at is that what we have now is we have people who are actually getting all the information collected in a single place. They're working in groups. They're communicating with each other. They're completely open. You can come join their Discord. You can join the discussion anytime. They will help you. They've helped me in regards to trying to translate a couple of games, which I just don't have the time for, but I digress. The point is that the community is really building up the infrastructure needed to bring people in that want to develop new games for it, not just port things, not just fix things, but actually develop new games. So, yeah, this is my PSA to all y'all fanboys out there like me who love RE2. Port the game.
Yeah, port the game, guys.
And it's really been our job for the last, well, I mean, in part, to help get the word out there over the last 3 or 4 years. I would say that we've at least been partially responsible for, hyping this machine that we love so much and bringing it to the forefront and helping new people discover it, So for a lot of folks, I mean, I consider myself lucky to be a Saturn fan for all these years, but if I was like somebody who never experienced the Saturn and I got like this brand new retro console, that'd be like better than Christmas, like discovering this new console with all these great games.
I mean, we're still discovering stuff. I mean, I think there's games and accessory and peripherals that we had no idea existed, and it's like, oh, this is on it, why don't I try this out? Because there's almost like 1,000 games for the system, right? I mean,
it's like almost
there's more than
1,300.
1,000. Yeah.
Oh wow, more than 1,000 games for the system, and it's like that's a lot of games that most of them not even translated. I mean, you can't even count the number of dating sims we can't play, unfortunately.
Yeah, like weren't you dating like Blubberman or something?
There's actually one of the new games that's being that's part of the contest is a Santa Claus mall dating sim. So you got your wish right there, brother.
Absolutely.
And the best part is it's called Chris Mingle. It's just great.
Chris Mingle.
I had to turn the mic on just to get into this.
Yeah, Pat
I haven't played it yet, but I can't wait for it. It's gonna be fun.
Pat, you had to play through that Doozy J game, right?
That needs a translation. I need to work on a translation.
We need a translation for that.
That was bizarre. I need to be able to marry Whale Man and get my relationship on with him.
Yeah, but I think
what game was that again?
Virus.
Exactly. That yeah, because I mean that's one of them games I've heard about for years. I mean I've seen playthroughs in Japanese and it looks badass, dude. It personally it reminds me of I don't know if any of y'all remember it, but it kind of gives me the same vibes that Galarians did on the PS1.
Sure, yeah, and I was ready to get into it. Let's do this. We're getting out of this bedroom, and we're going to explore this game that I've heard so much about, and I couldn't get out of the bedroom. I mean, that was so embarrassing.
I think we've all been there where it's like 6 a.m, you're tired, it's cold in your room because your roommate turned off the AC, and you just can't get out of your bedroom.
But I just love, like, Noah Steam, for example. I love his philosophy of just, like, he's not looking for any particular, like, he did Soccer Wars, sure, and that's high profile, but he's like, the next game, I think I'm just going to pick something random, It's not always about porting the, Grandia, which I know is going to be widely received, greatly received, and But there's a lot of like underdog games. Like I want a English localization of Wan Chai Connection. There you go. That would be great. Like that was a launch title, you know, in Japan. You know, I'd love to finally. Is that like plumbers don't wear ties, or is it like their version of that, or is it a little better? I don't know. It's
funny. Every single video I do a translation info on, and like playing it, I always get the same question of the one game everybody wants. And I have a feeling that all you know what that game is. That every single thing...
Rotor, right?
Nope.
Oh.
Princess Crown. Every video I post, every article, it's wins Princess Crown, wins Princess.
Well, that's because,
I have to say this, and I really do. And I'm just one of them kind of guys that's like contrarian sometimes. I really am. I feel that way, especially in the Sega Saturn community. Because it's like, that game right there, why do people even want a translation of that whenever there's so many versions of it already out?
I mean, probably the same way people want Lunar and Grandia, because it's just a different way to play it on the Saturn.
They just want to play it on the Saturn.
I mean, I can completely understand Grandia, because I mean the game was originally developed for it. I mean, plain and simple. But like, I don't know. It's like people are obsessed with that game.
They are.
I mean, there are plenty
it's pretty.
There are plenty of games like Valholian, like that had a PS1 port in English, right? Like, I think a lot of it is just people want that feeling of retribution to finally, you know, feel what it's like to have been a person in Japan who natively spoke Japanese, experiencing that side of the Saturn's life. Because
they want to be able to flip the bird to their PS1 fan.
Exactly.
I just said it to myself. Why the hell do I want a RE2 port on the Sega Saturn?
There you go. Right. Yeah.
I mean, I want
literally have 25 consoles to play that on.
That argument has more holes than my old socks. But yeah, it's there's just something nice about being able to play a lot of these games on the Saturn when, if you were in Japan where it was originally made, they were available and you could play them. So we have a kind of a jaded perspective on the console in most Western areas, you know, save for, you know, I think Portugal actually. It was pretty popular there, and a lot of places in Europe had more localizations than we did.
They actually got the DBZ game too.
Mm. And so it's just nice to finally. What would it have been like if Sega management made an ounce or two more sense with bringing games over to the U.S., especially those that were maybe translated for other consoles and were on the Saturn in Japan, but not brought over to the States or to Europe or wherever people speak English and not Japanese. So it's like there's this guy who translated Spyro 2 into Russian, and apparently people in Russia just went nuts over it, which is funny because you can play that game without understanding any of the dialogue and get by just fine, but something about being able to play it in your native language just made it so much more special. And I think it's got a lot to do with if you're a Saturn loyalist and it's in the language that you grew up on, it just makes it a million times more special than trying to use a guide or settling with the inferior PlayStation port. So
yeah, honestly, I'm just a proponent of the mentality that sometimes we can do things just because we can.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I mean, there's an element to it that, yeah, maybe some of those ports, like, you know, Grandia, for example, like, yeah, it's a slightly better version of the game. I mean, the water effects are better, whatever. But, you know, that game exists, and it exists on modern hardware now. I can play that game, but because it exists on the Saturn, or it's been translated to the Saturn, or they're still in the middle of it, right? They're still working on that.
The only thing that's lacking from the entire game is that the English subtitles for the it's just the cutscenes. It's just the cutscenes.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I mean, it exists, and if I can play it on the Saturn, why the hell not? I mean, that's why the hell not, exactly.
No, I completely agree. I'm an idiot.
But somebody needs to do Suikoden because it's already on PlayStation and they got all the words right there.
Oh yeah.
All that being said,
those translations of games that were never translated, like Linkle Liver Story, are extremely special. And please keep those coming. I'd love to try out Arcana Strikes,
absolutely,
the weird card game, you know, or Wakenroder, however you pronounce it. That's one I really want.
Would be amazing.
All the dating sims.
Is that why some people are asking? Why I even heard some requests for people wanting Snatcher translated, just because it's on the Saturn?
Yeah, it's different.
Saturn?
There's a bunch of differences in Snatcher's case because it has actually new cutscenes and new things in it.
Yeah, it's not an entirely different game, but it is a slightly different game on the Saturn.
Yeah, but that music is.
That's
Yeah,
the game
music's
that I
awful,
would like
but-
to see a translation of most because I enjoy Police Note so much. So I would love to see Snatch It on the Saturn.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I would just like to experience it and maybe have an option to play subbed instead of the dubbed one that we got in the Mega CD.
No, all I was going to say was I think it's very important that we also see some of these games that are very local to the area. You know, like these dating sims. We
Yeah.
never got any of those in the U.S. And
See, Ben's
how
on the same
interesting would...
wavelength.
Right, like those and say some of the sports games that we don't have versions of here in the States, you know, those are kind of things that are very local, and it'd be really interesting to see a U.S. audience or a Western audience or otherwise get into some of these games.
Or let alone how we as a U.S. audience would respond to a game like that. Like, would we find the game entertaining? Would we find it a bit out of touch? I mean, how would we in our culture respond to a game like that? Which is probably why a lot of dating sims just didn't make it over here.
No,
think nowadays-
there's the conspiracy theory. Okay, that there's literally no. This is real. This is real. There is a conspiracy theory that exists that the reason why we do not get dating sim games here in America, especially back in the gap, was because there was a CIA plot to keep the plague of hikikomoris out of the Western sphere, because cheap labor would not be possible if all the men did not go to work because they were playing these games. This is a for real. Literally like a year and a half ago, I fell on this freaking thread on Reddit. And I don't know where. I mean, I would probably never be able to
Oh,
find
well,
it
it must
again.
be true because it was on
But
Reddit,
dude,
right?
it was like a freaking whole like dissertation. I mean, there was citations, there was photographs. There was a CIA plot to keep dating sims out of America out of fear of getting rid of the low-skilled, cheap labor.
Dude,
There's
if you
actually-
can find that, please put a link in the chat. That sounds
Yeah,
gold.
yeah. I think that's the same department that worked on Polybius in the arcades.
Bruh, I mean, dude, this was some wild stuff, man. I was just like, what?
What subreddit was this?
Dude, I don't know. It was like 2 years ago. It popped up it popped up as like, I don't know if y'all have Reddit on your phones, but
Yeah,
Reddit will
it
give you
just- you just scrolled on
suggestions.
by it.
And it's like, you see a title that's interesting. I was like, CIA plots to prevent hikikomori invasion. And I was like, what? And I clicked on it.
I think, especially nowadays, there's certainly a demand for more of those games, and certainly translations from the Japanese Saturn dating sims, especially with how popular Katawa Shoujo and the KFC dating sim are. Those would be successful.
Just look at Pat over here, man. We have
Right.
this influx of weebs, man.
Hell yeah.
You gotta
I
ask.
love
To
you,
be fair,
man.
I was not a weeb until like I graduated from college. So
There you go.
Hey, Nick,
Yeah.
I gotta ask, who was your favorite girl?
In what, Katawa Shoujo?
Yes, yeah.
So I haven't actually played it, but like all of my friends in high school did. So
Oh, really? I
yeah.
got all 5.
But I mean, it was insanely popular when it came out. No, I'm a plebe. I haven't played Katawa Shoujo yet, so I'll get back to you, Chaz.
all
I
about
cried
the
like a
Sakura
baby.
Beach. I'm gonna sort of rein this in a little bit and just say that if you want to play good dating sim, play Doki Doki Literature Club. That's the best dating sim of all time.
I mean, there you go. The evidence
Yep.
speaks
No
for
one say
itself,
anything
Your
more.
Honor.
Play that best dating sim. All right, so let's move. Let's move on to Simon and see what his favorite Saturn-related development of 2020 was.
I don't know whether this is a 2020 thing, but I got a Project Z stream demo disc of a first-person shooter running on that engine, which absolutely blew me away. It's a sort of Quake and Exhumed crossover with little elements of both, but the potential that I saw from that, I couldn't believe the quality, and I couldn't believe just how good it was and how slick it looked, and the prospect of commercially available new Saturn games made from the ground up with that kind of engine, it just really excites me. One of the things that I think was most exciting about the Dreamcast scene for so long was the fact that there was new software coming out year on year, So I'm kind of looking forward to that happening with the Saturn if it ever does. But I kind of have so much of the existing library to explore that, in a way, I don't really need new games per se. I'm excited by it. Seeing that demonstration disc, it was sent to me by my good friend John Lee, who's a Saturn Junkyard co-creator, and he sent that to me. I have to rely on the kindness of friends who send me stuff like that, because I don't know how to access it online and stuff like that. But I guess I don't know how recent that is as a development, but that would be the thing that impressed me most in 2020.
For sure. That's still under development, so I think it counts.
Okay, cool.
And actually, I forgot to mention, our local Dave actually did the logo for their company, too. For Zectomy Software.
Wow, cool.
So when you ever see the logo, it's our local Dave.
Local Dave. I think one of the most impressive things about that shooter is the split screen multiplayer can go up to 4 players, and this is something I've brought up in a past episode, but no commercially released Saturn first-person shooter had more than 2-player split screen, so the fact that they did 4 was like, whoa, that is neat. So that's really proof of it being an extremely capable engine. XL2 is just doing an outstanding job with that.
And polygonal enemies,
Yes.
on top of that, and weapons.
That's right. It's incredible. Keep it up, man. We know you're out there, XL2. Keep it up. It's fantastic.
Like watching him put stuff out, when I hear programmers back in the day say, actually, the Saturn was like wide open, you could do so much with it. It really came down to deadline, and we just didn't have the time. But when they say like it's pretty much you could do whatever you want with it, and then you got these guys who do have the time, that really goes to show you, with all the light sourcing and crazy stuff going on.
All right, so why don't we go to you, Nick, in that case, and what is your favorite Saturn-related development of 2020?
Sure, and this was covered heavily already by our tangent, but really the translation renaissance that we're experiencing, like 2019 was really when we were like, okay, Renaissance, the Renaissance of translation.
2019 was the year of Saturn, baby.
It was, and that really got the ball going with Sakura Wars, and I really enjoyed Linkle Liver Story. That was not a game I had heard about before it got translated, not one I expected to enjoy so much, and I thought that was great. And now here in 2020, it just went boom. We got Grandia, Lunar, Valholian, frickin' Symphony of the Night getting translated.
Vandal Hearts.
Yeah, and there's just so much happening now on the translation front for Saturn, and it appears to be the momentum just does not show any sign of stopping here pretty soon. It's just going up. So, hopefully it continues. I understand that a lot of it might be thanks to the fact that many are working from home due to current global events, and but obviously the scene's just been picking up speed more and more, and players of the Saturn are eating it up. So I hope to see that going. That expands the library for people outside of Japan, and people who didn't spend years learning Japanese or weren't able to. So it's fantastic to see that. So keep them coming. We'll be playing them.
It's pretty funny because even my head's spinning on it. It's like there's like a translation every other day. I'm like, oh, I gotta write up a Shiro, and like, oh, I missed this one. Like
Exactly.
Even the other day, like we were getting ready for the Saturn competition judging, and they were saying, oh yeah, the Sega Saturn, there's the Lunar Superstar Story Complete MPEG patch, right? The dub. No, there's another dub for the regular edition now. It's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, that came out yesterday. It's like, oh my gosh. So my head's spinning.
And now there's I'm seeing rumors of possibly Baroque and maybe Devil Summoner being worked on, and if either of those are for sure happening, I would be very happy. Yeah, especially Devil Summoner. I've been really wanting to play that on the Saturn. So
exactly, if they get that Shin Megami Tensei going, I'm just dropping everything and
seriously,
like, hey, I'm Shin Megami Tensei stan now.
Another favorite development is I really like the wireless Retrobit controller that came out this year. I've been using that on my PC a lot, playing some Darius Burst with that. The Saturn pad is, in my mind, the ultimate shmup paddle. So it's, Dave's got his. I got mine down here. And did some Virtua Racing on the Switch with it. And obviously it works in the Saturn. But yeah, that's been great. Been using the hell out of that. Oh, wow, we all got him. Okay, now this turned into a commercial for those watching on video.
Oh, Ben's got the pink one.
He's got the pink
Does this actually go out in video form?
No.
Y'all need to start doing that. That would be badass.
It would be kind of cool.
Oh,
I
hey,
mean,
guess what?
half of that would be right.
Guess what? I'm about to load up OBS, and we're gonna get a little bit of that, like halfway through, but I'll get something out.
Sure.
Better than nothing, I guess.
That's all I got for favorite developments.
I'm with Nick. I want, Devil Summoner for sure, but Baroque, man, I really want to play it not watered down. Like, I have it on the Wii, and it's cool, but I really want to play it on the Saturn. It's just so dark and has like this atmosphere. I just gotta have it in English.
Gotta have it in
So-
English.
What about all of these technologies that are allowing us to play Saturn even in more ways? Like, we've gotten the mode, the Fenrir, the Satiator. 2020 brought us a lot of neat ways to actually play some Saturn games on original hardware, and I think that's amazing.
No, I'd have to entirely agree, but I also want to make comment to I know everybody loves to talk about actual hardware, and I prefer actual hardware, but the emulation side of the Sega Saturn in 2020 is like firing on all cylinders. If your PC can handle it, Chronos is basically the answer to everything. I know some people want to disagree with me on that, but I mean, like, that thing right there is badass. Like, whenever it comes to actually being almost one for what you actually get on the Saturn, it's badass. On top of that, you've had numerous updates for, everything from Yaba Sanshiro on mobile. The ability for an individual to actually get involved with the Sega Saturn community by, just playing the games. There's no excuse at this point that someone can give me for not being able to play a Sega Saturn game. Like, literally, if you have the ability to get on the internet at all.
Need an old ancient one, and it runs Saturn and Dreamcast just fine. So if you're worried that your machine's not fast enough, just give it a try. I promise you'll be surprised at what it can do.
See, I think what the fundamental problem is that you have, it's this concept or this myth that's been perpetrated for the past 15 freaking years, it feels like, especially the last 5 on YouTube, where everybody talks about you cannot emulate the Saturn, or you can't. They word it in a way that makes most non-tech savvy people understand it as you cannot play the games. Like, that's what I've tried to express to people sometimes. Whenever you say Saturn emulation is difficult, to a tech savvy person, they understand what that means. Like, oh, so emulating the actual architecture, blah, blah. For the regular layman, whenever you say emulate a game, they think, turn it on, play it on my PC. That's what they think. And like, literally, the games might not be 1-to-1. There might be issues. There might be a couple of things back and forth, but you can play the games. You can beat the games. You can do it. I can do it on my phone.
Okay, I was just going to say, Sam is absolutely right. The emulation ability of a computer to emulate a Saturn is not difficult. What was difficult was the architecture of the physical Saturn itself in the way that programmers were trying to use it back in the day. And but that's completely different than you being able to play these games on an emulation in your computer for the Saturn.
Yeah, and with such a crowded PCB, it's got a lot of chips that have to be emulated. So, that's been a hurdle over the past decade. But as Sam said, it's gotten exponentially better within the last couple of years. But even before that, we were doing it. I would definitely recommend for folks who are wanting to get into Saturn but haven't got the hardware yet. They're going to find out that because of this resurgence in popularity, the actual console itself has gone up in price. Aren't they about $100 now? And it's like, you could get them for $40 all day, every day, just a couple years ago.
It's hard as hell to find them for even $100 nowadays. I got a guy who's actually reached out to me last night. Surprised he saw a video of mine where I said I got one for $5. A couple of years ago, which was true. I was lucky. I just hit it at the right spot. But I know people nowadays who are paying upwards of $150, almost $200 for a console with cords and just a freaking controller. Just one console, no games, no nothing. It's the pandemic on top of the resurgence in popularity, and just the fact that these things are becoming more and more scarce every single year.
Yeah, so I mean, don't let the lack of hardware stop you from checking it out through emulation. But I will say though, real hardware is always going to be, I think, preferred when it comes to games that are just like down to the frame as far as performance goes. Like when it comes to that's the thing is I've been trying every so often, every like 6 months I'll try like Nights, for example, on an emulator, even the best, like 3 different emulators, just to see if it's there yet. And it's just like when you know a game intimately like that and you're basically capped out at what is possible to score on those games, you really notice the difference, but for all your RPGs, for all of your adventure games, for all that kind of stuff, I would say emulation is perfectly fine. And even to dip your feet in and play Nights on an emulator is fine, but like if you're going to be doing competitive play, that's where you need real hardware. It needs to be 1-to-1.
If I could for 1 second, I do want to make a comment, because I had this conversation with a couple of people. I've had the same conversation with a couple of people over the past year. People at My Life in Gaming, you got a number of individuals who are saying this is how you can do it, but at the end of the day, they also are the same ones that are saying, dude, if you got a freaking RF connection and a CRT, plug that in. And I think that's what a lot of people need to understand. That is, I'm personally, and I think most people in this little chat right here, I'm pretty sure all of us, yeah, a number of us have, the technical, we want individual frames, sometimes we count stuff out, but dude, man, if you're just getting involved with this, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, how long you've been gaming. If you just want to play the Saturn, anything is better than nothing.
Yeah,
so
if you're a content creator,
and
that's the thing. If you're a content creator, you need all that stuff. But if you're just a gamer, I played PDS. My best playthrough of PDS was on a 13-inch Sony consumer Trinitron with S-Video, and I still remember it was amazing. I was like hunkered down in front of this little screen, but I loved it. It only had mono sound too, but it was great, Saturn gaming is great, whether you play it on a BVM or on a little TV.
Exactly, and nowadays, like, it's so much easier to really do that because you don't really need all this stuff now. Like, a lot of the My Life in Gaming videos that people are seeing and stuff, a lot of it's made, like, from 2016 when there wasn't a lot of options, but now you can pick up any real CRT that takes component in, or even if you can mod it for RGB and just get a transcoder for it, and you could play RGB on a consumer set in the United States. Like, it's not going to be 1,000 lines and look amazing, but it's really better than, not playing it or having something, because, you can pretty much get, if you like the arcade look, like the arcade monitor, how clear that looks, you can get that on a consumer grade TV, or at least close to it, so, and that's what I really like about the availability of that stuff.
Just don't play games in 16:9 when they're in 4:3. I'm just saying, that's blasphemous. That's literally, Shiro will come down and chop you in the back of the neck. Don't do that shit.
People still get upset about that?
Yeah, that's my question. That's like,
I just like messing with people, dude.
I stretch it just to piss people off.
Yeah.
It's okay. I can't joke with Chaz in the chat, man.
Oh, you weren't joking, Sam. I know you.
No, I really don't care, dude. I'm not going to do it, but I really don't care. It's your stuff.
Yeah, people can, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, if you want it squished and look like those fat and wide look, that's your thing. You do it. You go, champ.
What's the ultra wide that I see people doing, like Sonic 2, just to troll people, and I love it.
They're literally trying to invoke Sega Saturn Shiro's wrath. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to tempt fate. It's this new game. You haven't seen the Reddit post on it?
Good times.
But yeah. Anyways, why don't we? Now we got a little bit off topic. Why don't we move on to Dave's most favorite Saturn-related developments for 2020?
Yeah, so you guys have mentioned most of the great stuff that's happened over the last year. It really has been the year of the translation and patches and stuff like that. That's taken the Saturn scene by storm. But kind of like Peter, there's something wrong with me. I like hardware. I'm just a real hardware nerd. Anything that can affirm the dominance of this machine over the Sony Haystation, is great by me, and I mean, we got saves internally day one, right? We didn't have to buy memory cards. There's a ton of stuff, growing up that I was always like, I had a chip on my shoulder and I had to prove that, this console was better, than the one that was selling like hotcakes. But anyway, this past year, Sega RPG fan, Joe, he developed an exploit where he's basically able to take all the Japanese online SegaNet games and patch them out so that we can play all of those games online. And moreover, if you own like a US modem, if you own a US Netlink modem, these playing the games patched like this will basically put your X-band modem into the 14.4 mode, which is what it needs, because those games, it actually turns out those games were designed for the 14K timing in order to perform best. And even though the Netlink modem was designed to be 28K BPS, and it was designed that way because they were trying to make it like a cheap internet browser for the home, and so they needed that extra speed to serve up web pages. But the X-band guys that worked on the X-band for SNES and Genesis, they really developed the technology to work over 14.4. And so all the sync, it's really, really important to get the two lines synced, which is why by Joe basically patching out those games and making the American modem sync up to the Japanese modem, now we can all play online with much, much better performance than what I was even showing with K before, or with some of my older streams where, it was pretty decent, but we'd have dropouts, or, I'd be playing Sega Rally and the car would, the entire frame would just freeze for a moment. That's gone. Like, you got people playing just literally matchups online, and it works at 14.4. I don't know how they did it, but it does, just like PSO worked over dial-up, and it was great, So yeah, now you can go onto the Netlink matchup group, and you can download a copy of the guide. You can go over to DC Talk forums and check out a copy of that guide. I put together like a PDF version of it so that people can basically buy the Netlink modem or a Japanese SegaNet modem, and then buy the little it's a little SIP or VoIP modem. Basically, it's like a VoIP adapter. You get those two things, and then just the phone cable, and you can get online and play your Saturn against somebody else. And it even works across country, so it's really good. And that's the kind of thing I'm all about, is more and more functionality for the Saturn.
Nice. All right. So why don't we move on to Chaz and see what he's been, what his favorite Saturn-related development is of 2020?
Yeah, probably. I don't have a particular number one favorite, other than, I guess this is just a generalization. I'm just happy that more and more translations are happening and are getting out the door, and that emulation has gotten a lot better, and that accessibility to the games has also improved significantly. Me being a preservation enthusiast myself, I mean, I'm also an original hardware guy because I'm a content creator myself. I stream a lot, but I'm just really happy for everything that's happening as far as the library is concerned, because for the longest time, preserving the Saturn games, the whole library, has been a huge concern of mine, a huge fear of mine, because the console itself has retained probably roughly, not including ports or alternate versions, probably 90% of its library has remained exclusive. And that may have to do with, how complicated the architecture is, or perhaps the lack of consumer demand initially. But I'm just happy overall that a lot more positive is happening. Fan translations, more RPGs getting out the door, better ways to run the games, not needing the original hardware as much, just really opening the doors more as far as just playing these games. Because as far as original consumer products is concerned, the market is so gone now. It is so gone as far as what you can purchase, what's available or when it's available, and how much of your bank account is going to be crippled when you make 1, 2, or perhaps even 3 purchases. So overall, I'm just really happy that everything that should be happening is happening. Fan translations, emulation improving, availability as far as just playing the games themselves, because when it comes to just buying these games, unless you have a lot of money to burn, I almost can't recommend it to anybody anymore, because it's so gone now. It's so gone.
No, absolutely. Like I think that's my big thing, is that I just can't afford these games anymore. Like I must have
so like, what does Magic Knight Rayearth sell for now? Can anyone elaborate?
I just bought it for $800.
It's going between $800 and $900 right now on average.
$40 for it in 2006.
Wow.
$40. And look what's happened now. Look how gone the market is. So that alone.
Yeah, 2000s were the time to buy.
Exactly. Yeah, like everything that's really good is just over $100 easily. Even like stuff like a Die Hard Arcade and stuff like that.
The scary thing is seeing the Japanese versions starting to go way up.
Exactly.
And when you see a bunch of Japanese versions of the game,
it's awful.
I was going to say, I don't want to be a contrarian here, but you can still get the odd good bargain. I've picked up a few games this year for £20 each, and Titana Twinbee was a beautiful shoot 'em up that I got for £20 not so long ago. So you can still get the odd thing.
That's the fun. That is the funny thing that Simon brings it up, because I have a lot of viewers over in the UK that still talk to me and basically express to me that even though there was a lot fewer games actually, like, you know, actual copies made, there was a lot fewer copies made for games over in PAL territories. The Sega Saturn has not blown up in price over there yet. Like, it has not blown up in price over there like it has over here. That is a very North American thing. Like, if you actually look at PAL territories, you talk to people who are physically in Japan right now. Like, there's a number of people over there that I talk to that, so long as you're not in Akihabara, where there's a lot of tourists and stuff coming from America, et cetera, like that. If you go out up in the sticks and look at Book Off and look at all these stores that sell these used games, it's still relatively cheap. Like, America, and not America per se, but just North America in general, has become the retro gaming market has blown up over here. I don't know when or if or ever it will ever get back to a functional pricing. The funny thing about games in America is that it's a market that's not that is literally based on, it's not based on how many copies exist. It's based on the demand. That's what it is, like, plain and simple.
And lack of supply. I mean, there's a huge demand, big country, lots of new people coming because of YouTube, coming to know the system, or because of podcasts. And, you know, so now you got all these new people who want this thing, and there just weren't enough made to begin with, because, you know.
But to me, it's not even supply is an issue. I mean, it is an issue, but it's not near as much an issue whenever you look at certain games that there I can't right off the top of my head, but there's a number of Sega Saturn games that don't have that many copies made. They were late releases. They're just not popular. They're good games. They're just not popular. So it's all really down to a demand. Like Panzer Dragoon Saga. Look at Panzer Dragoon Saga. Look how many. I'll tell you what, you want to play Panzer Dragoon Saga? For those of y'all watching, this is what you do. You get you one of these. You get you one of these. That's what you do. Sega ain't making no money off of it.
Yeah, that's how I play it now. Even though I have an original, I just play a backup.
This is one thing. I had a guy who actually brought this up to me, man. A lot of people are like, man, there's all these ODEs available. Well, he's got a Model 2 Sega Saturn. The cheapest thing he can buy right now is the mode. And that's still $220, $250 after shipping and everything. It might not seem like a lot to some people, and they're like, well, hell, that's a lot cheaper than the games. $250, especially right now, is a lot of money for somebody to drop on something like it just to play a game. That's why I've told people numerous times before, get a mod chip, pseudo Saturn, and buy a stack of CDRs.
Hey, if it's all right for me to segue that into my development, if that's cool, Sam. Basically,
by all means, brother.
Yeah, so I actually want to bring that up, and the great thing that I really love about this year is that there's so many options available for that. Like, not only do we have the mode, but we have the Fenrir, we have the Satiator, we still have the Rhea and the Phoebe, so we have all those options that are in different price points. Like a Fenrir, I think is like $50 maybe in that price range, and it only works on the I think was it 20 or 21 pin. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's basically the early model ones. That's the only one it works on.
Yeah, but essentially it works pretty well. The compatibility's up there. They're still hacking out or sort of fixing some issues here and there, but it's probably one of the best options and the cheapest options right now. And for $50, that's like half of a Saturn game. You could play like the majority of the library, if not all of it, at this point. And that's sort of what I really love the development for the Saturn stuff in 2020. So I'm really excited to see more options available in the future. But for now, I think that we have a lot of options that have like it's kind of different levels of availability right now. But I mean, it's 2021, so we'll see what's going on. But in terms of that, that's sort of what I'm looking forward to at least. So Nick, what are you looking forward to in 2021 that's some sort of Saturn-related object or thing?
Well, as always, I'm very much looking forward to replaying Pebble Beach Golf Links 5 more times.
Can you get into mine?
Do you think you can get it inside mine?
Please stop asking
I will,
that,
Craig.
Mr. Sadler.
I will. And but actually, for real though, very excited for Panzer Dragoon Voyage Record, which I know it's not a Saturn game, but it's very Saturn related. And I got into VR over the course of 2020. For Christmas, my wife surprised us. She got us the Oculus Quest, which, as I'm sure many who are into VR know, it plays Oculus games by itself, like it's just its own microprocessor, like console. But you can also use it to stream PC VR games on Steam VR. It's perfectly capable of that, and I've done that a couple of times, and it works fantastically. So regardless of whether it's like it just comes out on PC VR or if it comes out for all of them, I'll probably be able to play it when it releases. And if that game is as faithful to the original as I'm hoping it will be, I'll probably need like some kind of a sponge to soak up the tears while playing it, because that's going to be fucking beautiful. I'm excited for that. So hopefully that comes out. They're saying 2021 release. They haven't set a date or anything like that. But yeah, so it's an experience that was made for VR. You're riding a dragon, shooting stuff in a 360 plane of view. So being able to do that, and if they nail the art style and the music and everything about it, it should be fun. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping it comes out soon and that it's good. So
for sure,
high hopes for that one. That's what I'm most excited for this year for Saturn related items.
I totally agree. I'm really looking forward to Voyage Record, and I think history. I mean, we already have precedent that rail shooters work really well in VR. Yep. I mean, Res Infinite was incredible. Mm-hmm. Even like I could see like a House of the Dead type style game being really good, or Virtua Cop. I loved what was Until Dawn Rush of Blood.
I haven't played that one though.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It theoretically, like, it feels like it could be a continuation of the House of the Dead formula in a lot of ways. But yeah, I'm excited for that as well, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of no, it's cool, Brian. Then that's what you're excited for, right?
I guess I could go more broad than that, but it is related for sure. And you know, I love the Saturn, as we all do. But I think I love it more for all the experiences that more or less enriched my appreciation for gaming as a hobby over the years, rather than necessarily like a box that's, you know, made of plastic and copper and silicon that I have any loyalty to, that came out, 25 years ago by a corporation that was just trying to sell. It is the experiences though that I take with me and I continue to value today. And in that way, I'm really interested and excited for the ways that those types of experiences are being preserved and maybe even continued to have a presence in the modern zeitgeist in a way. And we've seen this a little bit from the official side. I mean, Sega's done a lot with celebrating their 60th anniversary to at least pay homage or lip service to some of its legacy. Certainly, a couple years ago or last year, we saw remakes of or ports of like Virtua Racing. Earlier this year, we saw Sakura Wars, right? The new, the PS4
Sock
iteration
Wars,
of
my
that.
favorite game.
Soccer Wars, sure. I always mispronounce that.
No,
even
I said Sock Wars, not Sakura Wars. Sock Wars.
Oh, Sock Wars. Is that a spinoff?
Yeah,
Sock puppet dating sim.
exactly.
No.
Shooter.
Ooh. Okay,
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
No, it doesn't exist.
Doesn't. Wow, that's why I haven't heard of it. But yeah, like or even just like Yakuza Like a Dragon. I played that a lot, and I love the fact that I could just go into the arcades and you had a arcade port of Virtua Fighter 2 there, and the fact that a lot of the Saturn ports that I bought years ago for like the Xbox 360, like Guardian Heroes, Radiant Silvergun, Daytona USA, I can still play those games on my Series X, no problem. And I think that's really awesome how those have managed to have some stability in their longevity in ways that I did not expect at the time with the movement towards digital preservation there, or at least in a legitimate officially sanctioned sense. So I'm really glad how those are being handled, at least through the Xbox platforms, and just the strides we've seen on the indie side, right, to help carry the mantle of a lot of those properties. It's not a Saturn game, but Dot, Emu, and Lizard Cube's Streets of Rage 4 came out this year and was fantastic. I think Nick, you already mentioned Voyage Record, which I'm really looking forward to, as well as to an extent. I was very mixed on Megapixel's Panzer Dragoon remake. I think the work they've put into that since release has been really nice, although it doesn't necessarily address my underlying critiques of its art style and just general feel, which I think are a little bit, I don't know, they like fall short of both being perfectly what's the word, like, I don't know, being pure experiences that are faithful to the original, with as well as not actually pushing the envelope to modernize or to do anything significant on its own as a standalone experience. But nevertheless, I think they've improved it immensely over the last several months, and I think that's a great game. And then even ones that aren't explicitly sequels or remakes or remasters.
The only thing I could really say that I'm looking forward to, which is Saturn-related, and Brian's the only person who knows about this so far. For Christmas this year, I got something called an X-Rocker gaming chair, which allows me to plug my TV into this gaming chair, which then allows me to put my headphones in and gives me a bit of an immersive experience because it rattles you about as you're gaming. It responds to sounds and it responds to explosions and music, and it kind of throws you around a little bit. So it's maybe not as immersive as a VR helmet, but it's an attempt to make it a more immersive experience. And it was funny because I was playing Christmas nights using this whole setup this Christmas, and it was just vibrating me all over the place. It was like being thrown around on some crazy fairground ride. But yeah, so playing Saturn games with my X-Rocker chair, I guess, would be my highlight of 2021 so far.
Sounds good. All right. Definitely need to get something like that for my room for sure. Did you want to go, Sam? Let us know what you're looking forward to in 2021 in regards to Saturn or maybe Saturn-related things.
Sure. Really. Let me think about that. Sure. I mean, I really don't know of a whole bunch coming forward. I really don't. We have a slew of games already in place. We have a number of translations that are already here. I think the number one thing I am waiting for, and I could not find it. I was actually looking while Panda was looking. Mr. Nick over there. What number game are you on right now?
26. I'm reviewing. I'm editing Mansion of Hidden Souls, which is episode 26. However, there are at least 3 or 4 episodes that are down the line where the release dates changed, and I had to change the episode order. So I guess you could. I think I've made 28 episodes so far.
Gun Griffin released in mid '96. When is that video coming?
Which one? I'm sorry.
When is Gun Griffin coming?
Gun Griffin. Hang on, I'll pull up the list. Probably not in 2021 unless I get like a sudden surge of free time. But okay, so that would be. Oh, come on, Google Docs.
Unless W Day makes him the Saturn correspondent.
Right.
Like,
yes.
You need to start reviewing
if my
these Saturn
station
games.
starts paying me full time. Yeah, that would
Fargo.
be episode 88.
Oh,
is
sweet
what
Jesus
that would
Christ, Lord have mercy.
But you never know. I could have a sudden surge of productivity.
You ought to just do it.
possible.
Do it for my birthday. Do it for October 28th. I want that. I want.
Sure. if whatever year I find I'm able to do it, I'll make sure I time it for 28.
Hell yeah. But no, but besides that, I'm honestly looking forward to just the possibility whenever it comes to what we can actually do with this console. I would absolutely love for somebody to compile all the information needed. Now, granted, the way the Saturn worked is that every game has its own assembly language. I mean, the Saturn itself has the assembly that you build in, but every single game has its own little quirks. I've known that for myself whenever it's come to trying to translate a couple of games. I would love for somebody to come up with an easier way or a more entry-level way to try to get into translating games, because we've already seen what a couple of people can do. Imagine if there was already something there where you had a blueprint basically to go by. Imagine how many games we'd have in that. Like, it's not something that I know is going to come. It's just something I wish would come. So, yeah.
I think the answer to that though is partnerships. Folks who are good at the translating part, doing that legwork, and hooking up with somebody who's really good at programming. And the more partnerships and teams that assemble, the more we can get this stuff done.
Nice. All right. What about you, Ben? What are you excited for and looking forward to in 2021 as it relates to the Saturn?
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. So one thing that was exciting in 2020 was, of course, the mode that came out. And I ended up purchasing one. It's fantastic. And it was kind of a surprise item to have been released. I had not known that they were going to be releasing something like that. And so what I would say, there are 2 things that I'm excited for in 2021. One of them is actually me being able to play a lot of these games on the mode on my Saturn right now, because it used to, I have 50 some odd physical games for the Saturn. And if I didn't have a copy of the game, I'd have to burn a copy, then put it into my Saturn, play it, and then do it that way. So I was very limited on how I could play the games quickly. And so with the mode, now I just fire it up. I can play whatever I want and try anything out without having to go through all the process. But as far as the things I'm looking forward to in Saturn in 2021, that aside from that would be the mystery items that we have no idea about. Because we're getting Panzer Dragoon in virtual reality. Granted, that's not for Saturn, but that's about Saturn. And that came out of nowhere. And, the mode came out of nowhere. All these items that have been happening have just, hey, good news, everybody. We're releasing a translation, or something along those lines. And it's just been fantastic. And with the momentum that has picked up in the Saturn community, I feel like there's going to be some projects or things that people are working on that we haven't heard about yet. And we're just going to flip out and be ecstatic about once we hear about it.
For sure, yeah. I'm really excited to see what the future of what the Saturn development holds in that regards. And I think one of the things that I'm really excited about is, of course, more patches. I love the translation patches. Everyone knows I do all the videos and stuff for that. So that's one of the big ones I'm really excited for. But one of the other things is just more hardware as well. So a lot of more peripherals, maybe a new MPEG card maybe. That'd be some pretty cool to have available and going. That'd be kind of really nice. And of course, the readily availableness of the satiator would be great. Like, I'm really excited for the prospect of being able to have anybody to have any of these sort of ODEs that they want and be able to not pay hundreds of dollars for games, or potentially thousands, or maybe tens of thousands of dollars, depending on how bad this gets. But yeah, that's sort of what I'm looking forward to in 2021 for sure, and I'm really excited to get it. What about you, Dave?
I'm looking forward to that Saturn Mini. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not at all.
Woof.
Hopefully Sam didn't.
Whoa.
It seems like Sam didn't hear you, so keep going before he comments on it.
Bark at him, dogs.
Let me go back to looking at what notes I put down. Well, so definitely, I'm looking forward to. I heard rumors of them Retrobit working on a 3D wireless control pad adapter. At least the little part that plugs in, kind of like a Nintendo 64 Rumble Pack kind of thing, But I mean, I suppose you'd have to charge it, but it would work with the receivers that they've already got out there, and that would just be amazing, As long as the latency is the same as these ones, I imagine that would be awesome if we get some way. I mean, if they want to go whole hog and make a 3D control pad, I'll take it. But even if they make the little adapter that goes in there, that would be amazing. I'm looking forward to more great content as the Saturn becomes more popular and people come to the forefront creating content. I am looking forward to Sam. If he ever gets around to making a video, I'm looking forward to that. I probably will be dead before that happens. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to every single one of Nick's reviews. It's like a kid on Christmas. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to Saturn. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to history. And you put those two together, and games industry, and the amount of research and love that he puts into it, and the memes. I'm there for the memes with my bucket of popcorn. I look forward to every single one of those videos that he comes out, and that's not just biased, because he's a Shiro. I was all behind Nick in his videos before he was a Shiro, and I'm so glad that he is. So I'm looking forward to that, and definitely looking forward to the Mansion of Hidden Souls, because I want to know what somebody else's take on it is, Like, is it just me that I'm a little crazy that I like it? It is weird, and I don't necessarily full on like it, but, it's just, I want to see what he has to say. And then I'm looking forward to more videos from Pat. I got to see that kiosk, running and firing on all cylinders.
At the end of it, I destroy it, so get ready for that.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm really looking forward to more of Peter's articles. I always say one day I would love to get all of those articles into like a coffee table book. It would be like the definitive, I would read it every day, but I'd reread it because that's just the kind of thing, that I like. So all these patches, all the community coming together to create content for this thing. This is what I've wanted for years. Like, I used to be a lurker on some of those Saturn groups, and I used to say, like, does anybody have a phone and is willing to make videos, or willing to share like experiences and stuff like that? And then Pat approached me and was like, hey, you want to do a podcast? So that was kind of like the start of something. And then it's like so many people have piled on and contributed in their own way. And some folks are just not, they've got a face for radio, or they don't even have a voice for radio, and they're like, I'm just going to do the coding and I'm going to make the patches and stuff like that. And those contributions are huge, probably more so than what we're doing. But I mean, I'm just glad and grateful for everybody who's coming and contributing to this scene, because it's really exciting. And yeah, so that's what I'm looking forward to, is just more great content.
For sure. What about you, Chaz? What are you excited for in the upcoming 2021 year in regards to Saturn that's not more Saturn destruction?
What I'm really looking forward to actually is getting started on, or rather firing back up Saturn streaming on my own page, since I have my own platform to do that on, and perhaps collaborate with you guys when I go live with one of those games. You could share it out, and that would really
No, sorry, that's not happening. Sorry about that, dude. Oh, sorry. No. But no, I'm really excited for how successful your Facebook page is. It's crazy how much it blew up. And I'm excited to see what you have in store.
Saturn games, once I finish one platform and then move to the next, and I want to collaborate with you guys on what you're working on, and maybe I can make that happen over on my end. Like, whatever game you're talking about, I'll fire it up on my end, and we can go from there.
For sure.
That's what I'm really looking forward to, is just for Saturn stuff, just playing those games again, because my system's been on the quiet side. I haven't been playing it much lately. I've been doing other things. So yeah.
For sure. No, I'm maybe you can hop on the Sakura Wars SNES translation they have.
Do I have to know Japanese? Because I can't help there.
I think it's English.
Oh, is it?
I think so. I'll double check.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Peter, what are you looking forward to in 2021?
Well, in all honesty, I guess the number one thing would be if this pandemic is more or less under control and we can get it behind us. I do periodically host Sega nights where a whole bunch of local enthusiasts / nerds converge on my coordinates, and we play some Saturn. So it'd be nice to do some 10-player Bomberman. I've now got 2 Saturn LAN cables, so I can get 4 different consoles playing. With players playing against each other on different monitors and what have you. Speaking of monitors, so I don't like scan lines. I like playing on flat screen monitors, but the monitors I use are very early plasma flat screen monitors, and the reason that's important to me is their inputs still natively accept all the cables anything that the Saturn can output. So I don't need upscalers. I don't need a FrameMeister or an OSSC or anything like that, so I can just plug and play. And so I've been collecting these monitors, because these Panasonic flat screens, because they're cheap, and so I've got 4 of them now. So I could, in theory, set up 4 monitors, 4 Saturns, link them up 2x2, and have a bunch of people over and play some cool full screen competitive games. So it's just things like that I'm looking forward to that are not really possible this year. Even things like going to PRGE. Got to meet Kay and Ben at the 2019 edition. In 2020 it was canceled.
I know that was such a bummer.
It's too bad, right? Yeah. Right. I mean, got to meet Brian there as well in 19.
Yeah, it's good hanging out with you guys last year. Maybe, yeah, looking forward to that for, I don't know. Who knows if they're going to start it up again.
Will happen, right?
Next October.
But I'm definitely going down if it's this October. So if anybody that's listening to this and everybody in this chat's going, let's meet up and play some anime dating sims.
Hell yeah.
That's right.
You're on.
It's a plan.
Get to see you date Blubberman or whatever his name
Whale
was.
Man.
So, Whale Man. Sorry, my bad. And then other than that, just the usual. Would like to take a quick trip to New York City, get to the roof of the Empire State Building with a PlayStation, the original one, and just drop it. Just
rip whoever's below that thing,
and just like they did in the commercials. But
Right.
I'd kind of scream it out. I'd be like, "Fly, plaything, fly!" and just go mental and just drop it.
Imagine you go into court. How did you kill this man with a PS1, sir?
You could
Yeah,
just
and I
go
would
back to
say-
Canada right away. You'll be fine. Just don't re-enter the country.
Precisely. Yeah. So,
Yep.
all right. So yeah. So that's that.
Looking forward to definitely a resurgence of the community. It's been interesting seeing how it's things like Vancouver Retro Gaming Expo and other platforms, even PAX, have evolved a little bit to accommodate a virtual setting within the pandemic. And I'm curious how much of that will actually stick, because it does expand the inclusion of those things for more people to enjoy, theoretically, who don't have to be in the physical location of those conventions. So I am looking forward to that maybe being a longer term thing, in addition to the rekindling of all of the physical conventions that we miss so dearly, and all the people and friends that we haven't been able to see this year.
For sure. No, man, I'm missing those conventions really badly. I can't wait to get back to those. I mean, once it's safe, of course. Also, I could have sworn Nick just took off his shirt, but anyways, I think that's a good enough to end on. And that before we go, does anybody have anything else they want to say?
If you do not play Sega Saturn, Segata Sanshiro will put tax in your cereal in 3 years.
Yeah, that'll work. But I guess for our plugs, go of course visit the Saturn Junkyard, or is it SaturnJunkyard.com? listen to the Saturn Junkyard Titancast, which is a very, very great podcast in regards to the Saturn.
Yeah. In some ways, so we don't really record those very often, and it's kind of tough for us to arrange our schedules since we're all in different parts of the world to do that with varying levels of busyness. Actually, we're all very busy, so we'll hope to record one eventually. But I guess maybe in the meantime, this is basically one of those.
Sounds good. Yeah. Also check out the SSG's channel. It's kind of hard to Google because I look up SSG and it like gets me these other pages, but
look up this is all you got to do. The Southern Sega Gentleman. I'm telling you right now, this year I am probably changing the channel name because I'm just there you go.
The Sega Sage, that's Southern, yeah.
Southern Sega Gentleman.
That's right.
But the Sage Gentleman of Sega. But
actually, Sweet Tea Sega Man.
Sweet Tea Sega Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, man, if it ain't sweet tea or coffee, y'all people just need to get on with that.
All right.
Agreed.
We'll workshop it a bit,
yeah.
Sam.
And then, of course, check out Pandemonium's channel and, of course, our stuff, SegaSaturnShiro.com. And, yep, I think that's about it. Thank you for listening, guys. And remember, you must play Sega Saturn.
Or he'll come kick your ass straight up.
Mm-hmm. Taxing the cereal.
And straight down.
Oh, Shiro don't play, bro. He's hard in the paint.
Oh,
Ever
I
seen
mean,
the Spider-Man commercial with Sega Sata?
He'll judo flip you and you'll go boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You will explode.
You will die.
I mean, he literally caught a rocket and sent it back into space. You think you got shit on him? Come on, son.
We are Segata fearing people. Like, that's how we live.
All right. I'm going to end this on Peter just looking awkwardly into the camera.
Yep.
Let's see, what else did I have in my notes? I mean, there's the losing my virginity. I'd like that to happen in 2021, but other than that, I'm
Doubtful, but we'll see.
I'm sorry. It's been a long afternoon. Things are starting to happen.
This is going to be a spaghetti mess. I don't even know if I can do a video of this.
That's
I think
cool.
Sam's
I switched from coffee to beer a long time ago, so
Right.
it is that kind of.
I think this might be the perfect opportunity to do outros.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not seeing Blubberman, maybe him and I can,
Well,
it's whatever. What?
keep calling him Blubberman. I don't think he's going to like that. You're not going to be able to date him now. You're going to have to date the biker lady. That I actually thought was a guy who crafted the game, but that's another story.
All right.
You should do a zoom in. Do a zoom in on his eyes right now.
I can't zoom in on this thing, so...
No, I'm talking about in post.
Oh. Yeah, I'll do that.
Let me see if I can help.
Oh, there you go.